All right, guys. I'm just gonna play this for you. This is giving the fact that the primary is currently it's tilting towards Joe Biden, but we know that Bernie Sanders is the man of the people. So what I want to share with you is, especially because I've seen a surge in the African American vote for Joe Biden, thinking he's the savior. So I came by this video, and this guy even wrote a book on Joe Biden, and I just want African Americans across the United States not to be fooled with all this pretext of Joe Biden using the Obama legacy to, surge in this race right now. Don't forget, Bernie Sanders has been fighting for everything African American stands for. Bernie Sanders actually was even in the civil rights movement. He was even arrested, marching with Martin Luther King, against segregation back in the day. This is over 30 to 40 years ago. So is this the man that African Americans are going to give up on? Bernie Sanders? You're going to give up on Bernie Sanders for Joe Biden? Take a look at this video, guys, for yourself.
Joined by Branko Marcetic, staff writer at Jacobin Magazine, reporter at In These Times, author of a new book called Yesterday's Man, The Case Against Joe Biden. He may not be yesterday's man after Super Tuesday, Branko. Can you talk about why you wrote a book on Joe Biden and what you think it's most important to understand about him?
Biden very early, when he announced, it was clear he was going to end up being the front runner. Obviously, he was not only the vice president, sort of traditional passing a torch from the previous popular president, and that he was inheriting that popular support. But also, he was a guy similar to Clinton in 2016, who has a lot of intra-party support. I felt if people are going to vote, they should probably be aware of his record, particularly African-American voters, who I argue in the books Biden has really systematically betrayed, even though he's gained their support, year after year, election after election. I think the main thing that people need to know about Biden is his approach to politics, which is very much based on his 1978 re-election campaign, which came at the sort of conservative shift in U.S. politics. Is based on appeasing the right and sort of taking the platform of his Republican opponent and trying to make it his own and kind of siphon away support like that. And that's really been the case in every election and really how he's governed. So that's why in the 80s and the 90s, you see Biden going actually further on the tough on crime and tough on drugs messaging than even Reagan and Bush were calling for. Biden was constantly saying that they were not going far enough. He was pushing for a drug czar when Reagan and even Rudy Giuliani, if you can imagine it, was saying such an idea was insane. Pushing for expansion of civil forfeiture and that kind of thing. And in the 90s, you see him, even though he says in 1995, he claims I'm close to retiring, but the thing that has made me stay in the race is I want to defeat these guys. I want to defeat the Gingrich Republicans that came in 94. These guys are terrible. And what does he do? In 1996, he passes welfare reform, which was defined by Senate Republican Majority Leader Trent Lott as the, quote, holy grail of the GOP's legislative agenda. Welfare kind of disappears really across the South and the Southwest United States as conservative governors use that welfare reform to basically just use the money to plug up their own budgets. He passes NAFTA. He repeals Glass-Steagall. He partners with Clinton to try and cut spending and to cut the federal bureaucracy. Spending and federal employment goes down to pre-1960s levels, even before to levels before Roosevelt took power. And this is really the way it's always been. Part of the reason why he ended up being the architect, the Democratic architect of the Iraq War was he was worried about an election. He was worried about being challenged from the right in 2002 by an opponent who could rival him in fundraising. And his safe bet was to sort of go and support the Iraq War, which a lot of African Americans did not support. And in fact, Biden, talking to a group of African American columnists shortly a month after voting for the war, and this is a classic Biden thing, is he votes for something and he says to this mostly black audience, he says, well, I think actually the war is a terrible idea and I don't want it. I don't think it's going to happen. Saddam and Al-Qaeda are not in cahoots at all. That's ridiculous.
We have 10 seconds.
When, of course, he had been saying the exact opposite before. So this is, as the Republican Party gets more and more extreme to the right, having Biden as president and even going up against Trump is a real worry.
Well, we're going to...
Well, guys, you see, Exactly. This is the thing. People have to fact check these guys at times. People like Biden. I've never been a fan. Because Biden has always been riding on the Obama thing. We can have a conversation about Obama the whole 9 yards, but we don't even want to get into that. But Joe Biden, has done everything that is contrarian to the beliefs of the African Americans. So for African Americans that are supporting Biden today, thinking he's the safe bet or is the guy who's going to go up against Donald Trump and defeat him, it's a lie. Because there are Republicans today supporting even the current president Donald Trump and the Republican Party that are disenfranchised. Because a lot of these people are poor, dirt poor, like the coal miners that have no more work because, of course, coal is going to extinction, right? And these people are living with SNAP benefits, welfare, and all that stuff down in Kentucky, over there, somewhere in the heartland of America. These people have given up on the system, but Bernie Sanders promises them, and they know that Bernie Sanders is going to be the guy who's going to give them the healthcare, everything that they're looking for. People like Joe Biden would never even think about that. Look at the man; he's not even campaigning about these basic issues that are affecting American lives today. So things like this is nice for us to point it out so you guys could see. For those folks in North Carolina, South Carolina, African Americans, you're all jumping behind Biden because of the Obama thing. I want you guys to open up your minds and just think about how far you've come. To where you're at today. Joe Biden is not the man for you. If you're suffering with credit card debts, Joe Biden actually is in cahoots with these credit card companies in Congress. They're bribing him. They're giving him money. He's the one. If your credit card is like 25, the average credit card interest rate is about 21% in America. Tell me you don't know somebody who's drowning in credit card debt. When these credit card companies are receiving hundreds of billions of dollars, in subsidies from the government. But yet you are paying 21% on your credit card and they're not paying anything for it. Well, Joe Biden is the guy who's actually pushing their policies in Congress. So tell me, how is that somebody that you want to vote for and thinking that person is going to beat Donald Trump because he's as corrupt as whatever is going on currently and he's not going to work. And that is why Bernie Sanders, as much as they've come together, the establishment Democrats, they've really come together to try to destroy the prospects of Bernie Sanders. It is not going to work. Bernie Sanders is the choice of the people. These current times in America, Bernie Sanders is what Americans need. The people that are suffering, the ones that don't have health care, you're worrying about your college debt. You are the people Bernie Sanders is fighting for. You're concerned about the environment. You are the person Bernie Sanders is fighting for. Joe Biden has no clue. He has no idea. It's like even when he goes into office day one, all he's going to be thinking about is how he can get his plutocrats and all these other Democrat established men, men and women to get into how they can make more money and get richer while she will keep getting poorer. So African Americans that are really supporting Joe Biden, you ought to listen to this guy's video, think about it, and just forget about that Obama legacy and just focus on the times right now that America has found itself, and you'll be able to make an informed decision. I'm going to leave it right here, guys. All right?